right, so about 10:28 here, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. So the big news is, if you haven't heard already, the district is going to be bringing everybody back to school starting next week as much as possible through hybrid. So we go back to hybrid, and at this point it is slated to be for just 2 weeks that we would be in hybrid. So fingers crossed. That's my hope, because that's a really hard model for some of us to be in, and I understand that. However, that's the plan. It's my understanding they have to go through that step or that stage before we can go back to fully in person. And so we would go back to hybrid for 2 weeks, and then we would be full in person again. So if you haven't already, your third hour Google Classroom should have a survey for you to fill out. So whatever you have third hour, if you have a science, that's great. But your other third hour, your other classes should be having that posted in third hour. And it's a simple survey, but we do want you to check with parents first, because we know for some of you, this isn't a decision you get to make on your own, but instead a decision that's made by somebody else at home, okay? So make sure you're having that discussion with people at home though, because we would love to see everybody back here in person, but we understand there are reasons why some people cannot return, okay? So as of right now, my understanding is also that we would be coming back next week, Tuesday, with the L through Z group, because it's Tuesday when we would come back. Martin Luther King Day, no school. And so the Tuesday would be the L through Z group, followed then by Wednesday, A through K. So that means that that week would be essentially, the schedule would be BA, BA, okay? Then the following week, what I've heard and been told is that it would be A on Monday, B Tuesday, A again on Wednesday, B on Thursday, followed by that Friday would also be B again. And that goes back to the fact that before the holiday break, the A group had 1 extra day compared to the B group. But that's what I've been told, and hold on, maybe that'll change, okay? So as of right now, everybody's coming back to hybrid model starting next week, Tuesday, L through Z on Tuesday, A through K on Wednesday, okay? Now, the second thing that I want you to think about, have you been on campus recently? One more reminder to be checking for late assignments or anything that's missing, okay? Next week, Friday, is January 22nd. That is the last day of the second quarter. So that means grade book is due for me to get things turned in. That means I need you to do everything you can to make sure that all missing assignments are turned in and anything that you might still want to go back and look at. So check there, see if there are any zeros that you can work with a teacher on, or if there are any missing assignments, okay? Then if you have your science book handy, we're going to go through the 1 page that was assigned to you for today. So I will ask that you go to page 20 in your science book. Page 20, it is the lesson 1 self-check. So there are 3 questions there, pretty straightforward, but again, we're kind of to the end of one of the lessons here. So I want to make sure that you go through these questions, actually 4 questions, number 3, number 4, number 5, and number 6. So we're going to go through those 4 questions. Number 3 says, as the nail is hammered into the wood, is work being done? So we're going to go back to that definition of work, and we're talking about the definition that we have now learned here in science, and that is a formula. So we know that work equals force times distance. So when we're talking with the questions that we had last week, I asked you to fill out a worksheet. There were 8 questions where we talked about force in newtons multiplied by distance in meters, okay? So now if we look at that formula and we apply it to this example. So as the nail is hammered into the wood, is work being done? So the distance might be quite small, right? It might just be a matter of a few centimeters that the hammer is moving, but there is a distance being changed there, and there is definitely a force, right? So this would be work. And so it says, how do you know? So letter A, the option is no, work is not being done. The force from the hammer is being applied to the nail, but the nail moved only a little bit into the wood. Well, if there's a force there at all, then we are talking about work, correct? So this one is incorrect. That can't be. Letter B, no, work is not being done. The nail moved into the wood because of the force from the hammer, but energy was not transferred to the wood. That one's false or not applicable, right? Because there has to be force if the nail is moved at all, and that means there is energy. Letter C, yes, work is being done. Energy is being transferred from the nail to the hammer. Nope, that's not how it's working, right? So the appropriate one is letter D. Yes, work is being done. The force from the hammer is being applied to the nail, and the nail is moving a distance into the wood. Okay. Number 4, what forms of energy are involved in hammering the nail into the wood? So we have options for sound energy, electrical energy, kinetic energy, and electromagnetic energy. So there are 2 options here because it says choose all that apply. So letter A is definitely one of them, because if you've ever hammered a nail into a piece of wood, then you know that there is a sound made by that hammer striking the top of that nail. So we would choose letter A. Letter B, electrical energy. Nope, no electricity being used here, so not letter B. Letter C, kinetic energy. Kinetic energy is the energy of movement. So yes, indeed, letter C we would choose because we are moving the hammer towards the nail, that kinetic energy. And then letter D, electromagnetic energy. Nope, that one is not being used. So our answers here would be letters A and letter C. Number 5, it says eating a healthy breakfast gives your body the energy needed to help you start your day. The girl in the photo is having cereal and orange juice, which have stored which type of energy? Is it thermal or chemical? So we would choose chemical here. The food that we eat has chemical bonds. And so it is those chemical bonds that we would utilize or look at there. Okay. So awesome. Nick, did you have a question?
It was chemical?
Yeah, chemical for the first part of 5. Okay. Yeah. So the girl in the photo is having cereal and orange juice, which have chemical energy, a form of, and then it would be potential energy, right? Because the bonds in that food, it's just sitting there stored, waiting for us to eat it, and therefore waiting for our stomach to break it down and utilize that energy. So we should have first circled chemical, then we should have circled potential. Second part says the girl's body breaks down the components of the food to access the energy stored in them. Later in the day, some of this energy is transformed into and it would be kinetic energy, because she would do some moving around, right? The kinetic energy that will allow the girl to study and play sports. Some of the energy is also transformed into, and now we're going to circle thermal energy, because that keeps her body warm. So talking about being warm or creating body heat, that would be thermal energy. So number 6, the last question for today, the energy in a flashlight is provided by and it is chemical energy stored in batteries. And so it is that process of utilizing that chemical energy. Second sentence in that question says this energy is transformed into electrical energy, because we know that flashlights create light, not a sound. So it's electrical energy which travels along a wire to a light bulb. There it is transformed into electromagnetic energy. This energy is one of the outputs. So it is putting out that light using that chemical energy. The other is thermal energy that you can feel as the flashlight gets warmer, okay? So again, thermal meaning any sort of heat energy, okay? Awesome. So those questions should be completed in your book. Then basically today, what I'm asking you to do is watch a Bill Nye video. So it is linked on our daily agenda, and it is about 21 minutes long. You'll notice when you first open it, it says that it's about 28 minutes long or 29, but it's because it starts to replay the video after that first 21 minutes. So here's what I need for you to do. There is a worksheet that you're going to fill out as you watch the video. My suggestion or my advice would be to do a split screen. And so have the worksheet open on one side, be watching the video on the other side, and then I would go ahead and I would start watching the video. By me having it just linked there and having you watch the video on your own, you get to start it and stop it as many times as you need to, okay? So as you start to go through, if you haven't looked at the worksheet yet, then I need for you to understand that there are some time stamps on it. And so what I did is I went in and I watched the video and I was able to fill out questions 1 through 9 by the time the video got to 6 minutes, 50 seconds. So I put that right on the worksheet. So you should be watching the video and then stopping and starting as much as you need to. Try to fill everything out. Excuse me. And if you get to 7 minutes and you still don't have number 7, then you're going to have to back up and go back and rewatch a little bit. Okay. Because you should be able to answer 1 through 9 by the time you get to 6 minutes, 50 seconds. Then there's a second timestamp that's right after question number 14. And that gets us to 11 minutes, 27 seconds. So we should be able to get through those questions. Then the last part of it, you should be able to get through with just watching the rest of the video. Now, please notice numbers 19 and 20. Those are not given to you verbatim in the video. They're basically just asking you to go back and think about those 2 questions. You should have a very good idea of how to answer those questions after watching the full video, but make sure that you go back and answer those questions. I would prefer full sentences. Don't just put down a simple statement or this little chunks of sentences. So capital letter, punctuation, make sure that you're answering. I'm not looking for a certain number of sentences, but I think 1 or 2 would suffice, but make sure that they're then full sentences, okay? So that's it. That's all I'm going to ask of you today here in our live session. Basically, I need you to spend the time. It's about 21 minutes to go out and watch the Bill Nye video. If you've done so already, that's great. If not, then make sure you're carving out time to be able to get that done. The worksheet is due in class. It's going into the grade book. And so make sure that you go through and you complete all parts of the worksheet. If you have questions, let me know. And just like every other day, if you have questions, go ahead and stay on. Otherwise, I will see you tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day. Try to get outside and enjoy that sunshine.